We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
E-A-G-L-E-S, swing of the miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Well, good morning. It's Drunk on the Phils. Eric, it could not be hotter. Outside of a little bit of snafu on Friday night, this team is electric, only losing, 4 in the month of May. The stat that I had that kind of blew me away was even in those 4 losses, they're only losing by either 1 or 2 runs, not losing by more than 2 runs in the entire month of May. The pitching staff is putting it all together. The bullpen is hot. Outside of Jose Alvarado's one mistake to a guy that I feel like just finds a way to burn the Phillies anytime he can. Even now he's playing in Colorado, used to play in Florida. The bats are hot. The bats are heating up. They heat up late in the AM last night after midnight. They wait until early Sunday morning to get started. There's so much to talk about on this team, man, and just really exciting time to find ourselves watching. We normally wait for the middle of June, early July for this kind of stretch to happen. So talk to me about where you're at with the Phils, man. This is a really exciting time.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice, this time of year being in the spot we're at, right? I mean, now we're 7 games up in the East. So it's really fun. Like you said, we're usually waiting for June to heat up, and we're usually having to play catch up and, play from behind and then rely on going on a torrent stretch in, June, July, and August to either A, make the playoffs, or B, have a shot at the division. I mean, now we're right in the mix of things here. And it's fun. I mean, the Braves aren't even playing that bad. I know they had a bad series against they've lost 2 to the Pirates, but I feel like they're not even playing that poorly. We're just playing like it's hard for them to make up ground right now. And it's kind of like a reverse role from last year, right? Like when we started heating up, the Braves would just win every night. So like we couldn't make up any ground. So that's it's kind of been going that way. It's a nice way to see it. Like you said, everything's kind of firing on all cylinders right now. Other than, I mean, they're going to lose games. It's funny. I think, if they lost the way they lost Friday night last year, I would have been much more upset. I probably would have been cursing a little bit. I would have been yelling at the TV. I'm like, it was going to happen, right? I mean, it's almost like we're a little spoiled right now with how well this team's been playing. So you get one back last night. You definitely didn't want to drop the series in Colorado. So getting one back last night. We got Ranger on the mound today, puts us in a good spot here. But yeah, got to take today, I think. And exit the weekend here with some momentum.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this time last year they were 5 games under 500.
Right around there, yeah, they're definitely under.
It was like a 1-for-1. Like you saw the early struggles of Trey Turner. You saw a lot of inconsistency in the pitching staff and the bullpen, and you're just not seeing that tonight. And then you talked about the lead that they have right now. 7 games up. It's the biggest divisional lead in all of Major League Baseball, and really doing a good job at setting themselves apart. Just by being consistent, they're getting that. And the thing that I love about watching this team this year is that you feel like you really can't ever turn the TV off, right? Like you and I were talking like 2 minutes before we started. about the game last night, and I was like, oh, like what an exciting way to end the game. And you were like, but it was sleepy for like almost the entire game. But yet you feel like you're with the way that this offense is producing, you're just waiting for the point in the game. It just so happened that they waited until the ninth inning last night to be able to, string a pile of runs together. You get the late dagger with the Harper home run. I love the fact that this team is keeping me interested because I feel like I can't ever turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm joking around and kind of only partially joking. Like, I mean, I've always done this, but this year I feel like even more so. Like, most of my plans are scheduled around what time the Phillies play. So we're having some people over today, and I'm like, let's do it right around 3:00. That way we can have people over when the game's on. So,
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, they're never out of it. Like last night, yeah, I mean, it was the offense was a little flat in the first 7-8 innings or so. And then they just turn it on, and it's an onslaught. So, and you're getting contributions from everyone, which is really good to see. I mean, Edmundo Sosa has been incredible. It was good to see Stubbs get some, have some big hits last night. I feel like he's been struggling. I mean, he had that bunt hit the other day, but even when JT's knee was a little banged up, like you're not going to get a ton of production out of him. But it was good to see even guys like him produced a little bit last night. So you're kind of getting it from everywhere in the lineup. And it's just, you just feel like you're right. You're never out of a game, right? There's always a chance for them to come back. And they're, to the point you made in the beginning of the show, like they're only if they are down, they're only down by 1 or 2 runs usually. So it's like, okay, I mean, one swing changes the whole dynamic of the game.
Yeah. And you saw the way that, like, you talk about the Stubbs at bat, right? To talk about the way that he produces the runs, right? He gets on, right, is able to get to second, and essentially is there to be able to tag up and manufacture a run.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that, if you just opened up the box score this morning, you wouldn't have, there's no context to any of that, but to see the way that, the next man up guy is able to produce night after night, right? The way that, Cody Clemens comes up, right? Pinch hits in the ninth, gets a walk, gets on, and then goes and makes a play in the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you're doing this all without Trey Turner. You're getting all this production. You're having a month of May where you're only losing at this point 4 games, and you're doing essentially the entire month without Trey Turner, who at the time of his injury, was probably, your best, maybe your second best player. You lose that, you now are juggling the lineup, right? Because sometimes you're going to have Sosa play there, sometimes Stott's there, and Merrifield is playing, second base, or so. It created a lot of juggling of the lineup, where that was one of the things we talked about earlier on in the season. The way that you can kind of pencil in those guys and not have to worry about kind of shuffling the deck. And they seem to have been resilient all the way through it, because you're seeing, times where you get the late game substitutions, Pache goes in and plays outfield. You slide Marsh over to center. Like, you're getting all of that, and you're still putting together solid wins. Even in a start where, for the first, 4 or 5 innings, Nola looked like he was that was the first time this year that I really saw him like searching for the strike zone, outside of maybe that first start against Atlanta.
Yeah, it's funny actually. Last night I saw something. I think the temperature for the game last night was like in the mid to high 60s, and it was like a little bit rainy. It's so funny how Nola is like, he is such a warm weather pitcher. But I
didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
but
I did cross my mind.
growing up in Louisiana, God, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, he thrives on humidity and heat and everything. But the positive from it was like he didn't really have that blow up inning. You know what I mean? Like he was able to kind of minimize damage, and I think that's what we weren't necessarily seeing last year, right? Like he wasn't necessarily always minimizing damage, and on like the fact that he was still able to go 6 innings, the fact that he was still eat up more innings, just shows you like what a workhorse he really is. And I know he is like such a polarizing figure among the Phillies fan base because and I get it, he could be inconsistent. But like when you look at starting pitching around baseball, like there is not one team here in all of baseball for the right price who would not want Aaron Nola. I mean, he would be an ace on some staffs. It's just our staff is really good, but the durability he has, the innings he eats, and just like again last night he wasn't sharp, right? He didn't have his best stuff last night, and he admitted it post game, right? He was like, I just didn't have it tonight, but he was still able to go 6 and minimize damage. So it's like that was really good to see. But yeah, I mean the versatility you were talking about, having guys who can kind of play all over the place, moving people up and down in the lineup, and you really feel like you're not losing anything. Like last night when the lineups came out, I'm like, oh yeah, JT needs a day off. Okay, who you put to? Stop. Yep, perfect. Like you have guys who can pretty much hit all over the order. Now some of you don't need to move because it's like they've been producing there, but having that versatility is a huge weapon for Rob Thompson.
Yeah, and this stat right here speaks to exactly what you were talking about. The Phillies starting pitchers have gone 7+ innings 18 times this season. It's 10 more than it's more than 10 teams had all of 2023.
Yeah, I mean,
like the way that they are able to, and that is a direct connection to the bullpen's more rested. You're not you just don't have games where you have to have that bullpen game where we've seen the Phillies do that to people where they get on a guy early, they get to their bullpen in the second inning, and and then it taxes them for the rest of the series. Now they're less likely to go to that bullpen in the next game because they got to get those guys rest it just creates this snowball effect where you haven't seen that with this team at all, where even if they're not going 7+, most of the time, and I would love to see the inning breakdown. Like how many times have they gone 5? Have they gone 5+, 6+? Because even then, you're still not taxing the bullpen. Because most of the time when they bring guys in, the guys that they've brought in have been so consistent. Guys like Strom and Alvarado, right? Those guys are not coming in for 3 batters, and they're not the time where they bring in guys from the bullpen. Most of the time, those guys are finishing innings, so they're not using multiple guys in the same inning. They're not going in there and giving up a whole pile of runs, and then they got to bring a second guy in, a third guy in. They've even when their bullpen gives up runs, like look at the game on Friday night with Alvarado, gives up 1 run in an inning where the way that inning went, it could have gotten a lot worse. And then the same, the 10th inning, kind of is what it is. And, I'm curious now that I'm talking about it. I'm curious as to your thought in both of the 10th and 11th innings. They put the initial guy on. And I know that they're doing that to create the double play and try to get out of the inning as quickly as possible. And essentially that run, because the game is still tied, that run, that runner doesn't really factor in because that guy on second base. But I'm curious as to your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on on matchups and everything. I do see it. I don't know I don't necessarily know like what the formula is, like when Thompson's going to put the guy on, or if that's just a new thing he's going to do all the time. But you're right. I mean, in a tie game, especially when you're on the road, you're right. That run doesn't really matter because the guy on second, he scores. It's a walk off anyway. So I don't hate it if in a tie game on the road like that. Just because it's not going to it's not really going to factor in and the benefits of it, right? If you do get that induce that double play ball, that's that makes, even if the guy moves up to third, the guy on second moves up to third, now you could get ground out, fly out, anything. You're not really relying on a strikeout or a double play or having to make sure the guy pulls it on the ground at third base to hold the runner or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, I see it in that situation. I like it. I agree with it. So yeah, again, I'm not sure if like that's something he's going to do all the time, but it makes sense.
Yeah. The only thing I thought about was in a couple of games ago when Aaron Nola has the 3-pitch inning. It does create a unique opportunity that it creates the opportunity that you could get out of an inning with 2 pitches, which I thought was like that was like my initial thought. And I don't know, how the statistical piece works with, putting the guy on and what that does, for, the people who are doing the official scorekeeping. But like the fact that creates an opportunity where you could essentially get out of an inning throwing only 2 pitches was like one of those cool baseball statistics that like we know exists. We just don't know how many times we don't know how often it would happen.
Yeah, that is actually, I never thought about that. Actually, yeah.
But like, so they're gonna Rangers gonna pitch today. I think you saw the bats come alive, and I think that's a really good jumping off point into this series, into the series finale with the Rockies, because up until then their bats kind of looked a little sleepy outside of like the 2 home runs they get, on Friday night. To be able to kind of start putting that together, you see Harper put together, a really good opposite field power, and yes, we're talking about Coors Field, but like to be able to drive the ball to essentially the opposite corner, gives me a really good feeling going into today.
Yeah, it's that was really impressive to see him be able to do that. That was a really nice shot there. It is funny, like I feel like there's so much drama surrounding Bryce Harper at Coors Field over the last couple of years.
Seriously,
but yeah, I mean, it's always something, isn't it? It's like, so I mean, it's like one of those games where he gets ejected the night before. I was like, he's definitely gonna hit a home run tonight, right? Like he's angry, he's gonna hit one, right? It took a little longer than I was hoping, but hey, we'll take it. So yeah, hopefully the bats are waking up. It's funny, like it's gotten to the point now with Ranger on the mound. It's almost like how I feel about Zach Wheeler and how you might feel about Zach Wheeler last year. It's like I feel like, again, maybe I shouldn't feel this way. Maybe it's being overconfident, but like I just feel like it's so stress free. Like even just watching Ranger, he's like he's cool. He's calm, collected out there. I'm like he has no stress. I have no stress. It's great. Let's just get the bats.
It's very sleepy.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, he's
just like
one of the most fun pitchers to watch. Like the way he's mixing pitches right now. I love watching him play defense. It's like it's comical how free and easy he is and how like nonchalantly he takes ground balls and everything like that. He's just like right now one of the guys, like he's a must watch pitcher right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, and I saw this stat from Jeff Skversky about, he's the only Major League Baseball pitcher in the last 111 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like that to me took me back. I'm like, wait, 111 years to go undefeated with a 1.5 ERA or lower and 65 plus strikeouts over his first 10 starts. Like we're talking about the 1800s, people.
Yeah.
Like that's wild. And that should tell you, you're talking about the second or third best pitcher on your staff. To be able to get that kind of production from that guy, and you've seen him be able to come into this year with not a whole lot of stress, right? Not the World Baseball Classic, not the visa, not nothing. Just came in and was able to prepare, was fully healthy, and you're really seeing his ability to be able to produce every time he comes out with zero stress.
Yeah, the point you just made there, I think, has so much to do with it. Like just finally having an off season and a spring training where he can go through his normal regimen. He's coming in healthy. But again, and I've talked about this before too, and I know we've mentioned this, but like I think so much credit needs to go to the pitching coaches too. Brian Kaplan and Caleb Coughlin, because they really get these guys to know how to throw. Number one, add pitches to their repertoire and how to use them effectively too. Wheeler adds a splitter. Ranger is throwing like a 5-pitch mix right now. It's crazy. And I mean, obviously it's up to the pitchers to go out and execute, but like just where, the information these guys are feeding them and the way they're helping them, be able to execute these pitches. It's like, it's like such a well-oiled machine right now. And it's like how I feel like we have not been able to say that. I mean, how many years are we calling for a pitching coach or a hitting coach to get fired? Right. And it's like this year, it's like, I think everyone's fine. Right. Has anyone even called for any firing yet? I know people still get mad at Thompson when he doesn't play Marsh against lefties, but I think a quick look at his splits and you'll see why it's not necessarily all analytical stuff. It's a proven fact he's not really hitting lefties this year. But it's kind of a nice problem to have.
Yeah, I think it really is, and something that I wanted to go back to because you talked about Harper and his stuff that's going on in Colorado lately. Right. And we would be remiss if we didn't kind of touch on what happened on Friday. Bottom of the first comes up and I'm trying to find the full video. Set it up for me.
So the anger here came from the second pitch, right? It was a little bit low. So that kind of forced him into an 0-2 count, right? So that's what he's upset about. Then he chases a pitch. It's down. And he throws his helmet down. I think he's actually I'm almost thinking he's like, it's a mixture of like angry with himself, also angry at that second call. And then he's standing there, looks like he's just having like a conversation. I mean, who knows what he's saying, but like, he's not fired up. Like he doesn't really look angry. And the home plate ump just tosses him. But you look at the dynamic shift that has in a game like that, right? He's out in the bottom of the first now. So, and how that shifts everyone else around, right? Luckily, we talked about that, versatility we have with a bunch of these different guys, but now you have to bring Rojas in to that spot, and now you have Rojas hitting in your 3-hole for the rest of the game.
Right.
I mean, Rojas has been, I think, doing pretty much what we'd expect him, right around that 220, 230 range. But I mean, given the choice between two of them, Harper batting third in some of those positions there instead of Rojas completely could change the complexion of that game. We've touched on this before on this too. It's like, I don't know what needs to happen to some of these umpires before they can, it's such an inflated ego. And there just needs to be some sort of repercussions. Whether, I get a missed call is going to happen from time to time, right? That's the human element of the game. That's why they added the replay review. Okay, fine. I get it. Now, if you're missing, 20 calls a night, okay, Angel Hernandez, then something needs to be done. But, I get it. It's going to happen occasionally. But when you have guys like this who are on these power trips with these egos who are, throwing out guys in the first inning. Now, if Bryce was, up in his face, screaming everything, sure, throw him out. Like that, that's arguing balls and strikes. Here, it's like he's not even really showing him up. And this guy just feels like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to throw him out. Completely changes the complexion of the game. I was really happy. I'm looking at the picture right here, and I forgot how fired up Thompson was because I've never really seen him angry before. He was laying into him, and good. Like, you need someone to defend your players like that, and these umps just need to have some sort of repercussions, whether it's a fine, whether it is, missing a series. It's got to be something, though. But, like, they're just – it's the ump show, and no one is there to watch it. I don't care what your name is. If I know your name is an ump, that's a bad thing.
Well, and the funnier thing is, like, so while we're talking, right? So you see, right, that the at bat ends, he throws his helmet. Essentially, by the letter of the law, it's a warning, right? But everything that you're seeing here seems completely conversational. He is in, and I'm gonna try to pause it. So at the time that he gets thrown out, he's in the left, at the far corner of the left-hand batter's box. The umpire has now moved to the far corner behind the right-hand batter's box. So there is a significant amount of space in between the two of them. Nothing to me seems heated. He didn't throw anything at him. Everything that you said, right, it seems completely conversational. And as a player, when you heard the post game, I completely get his perspective. Hey, I just want to know where that pitch is because I'm going to have 3 or 4 more at bats in this game. And I want to know, is that something that you're going to be calling the rest of this game? And I think as a player, he has that right to be able to ask that question, to say, do I have to swing at that pitch? Is that something that you're going to call in the next 3 at bats if that pitch is in that same spot? And this is purely a case of like the ump being in his feelings. He didn't like the fact that he threw the helmet. He didn't like that he stood in the batter's box and essentially questioned his authority. So you throw him out in the first inning? Like, I've seen. Listen, we've now seen the statistics, right, of Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's got 21 ejections compared to the next guy, which I think is like at like 9.
It was 9,
So-
yeah. I think it was Tim Anderson at 9, yeah.
So like, he's no stranger to getting ejected, but I've seen him get ejected for far more. And I've seen him be in games, and the thing that I was going to reference is the after the fact of after he gets thrown out, and he's still, you can see that now he's elevated. He approaches him, right? But it still seems to me like it's conversational. He's not like pointing and screaming in his face. Now Rob Thompson gets animated, absolutely. The best part about all of this, if there is a best part, is the post-game interview when he specifically references other umpires that he's been able to have conversations with. The guy that I remember him talking. I remember talking about Alan Porter, who's a local PA guy, but who's a guy that I know is like top of MLB umpires in terms of his respect and his relationship with the players. The best part about this was the fact that he named all those guys, and then he didn't even use that guy when he referenced him. He called him number 120, which is like the number on his umpire sleeve, which I was like, that is like a really like astute dig to be able to, one, know his name, but also to know the umpire number and use that as the reference material. It just like this, it is just further shining the light that there needs to be something else that happens because of where MLB is in terms of the camera angles and the information that's available and the speed at which it's available. It's shining the light on all these mistakes so much faster and so much sooner that like you can't play ignorant to it and realize that it's not there, or say, oh, well, we didn't have that information available. Listen, if it's on social media 57 seconds after it happens, and then you've got millions of people reacting to it, you have to have the ability to be able, you have a replay center, but you're only using it for certain things. Like, I get that there's a pace to play and there's that whole aspect to it. But at the same time, like, the goal of all of this is to have your best players play and to get the calls right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, no one is going there to watch an umpire call a game, right? Like, people are not going there for that reason. What people are going for is to see Bryce Harper, who is one of the league's superstars, play baseball. Whether you're a Phillies fan or not, I mean, you got to respect. Like, when I'm looking at tickets to buy, I'm looking at what opposing players I want to see, right? Like, okay, yeah, if the Dodgers are coming to town, cool. Let's see Mookie Betts. Let's see Ohtani. When the Angels come to town, everyone wants to go see Mike Trout. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're necessarily a fan of that team or not. You want to go see. That's funny. I saw it this morning, actually. You want to go see those players.
Yeah. Sully from the Bell Smash. This was elite level meme creation with putting the umpire, and I'm not going to use his name. I'm just going to call him number one. Put in number 120 in the place of Arcia from last year, and as the Bryce Harper stare that was some elite level meme stuff right there. So
yeah,
good work, Sully. Appreciate that. Let's get back to some other bigger, brighter news, right? They're coming off of the conversation that the Phillies seem to be consistently putting to bed, is this narrative of not playing top level teams. And they did not create their schedule. They did not choose to front load the schedule with the teams that they've played. But the fact that they're winning all of these series, sweeping so many of these series, they're putting a lot of those teams under 500. So that's one thing. But the way that they're doing it, in the dominant form that they're doing it, Jeff Passan had a fantastic way to encapsulate all of this, right? And this was put out on the 23rd of May, right after the Phillies sweep the defending World Series champion Rangers. Says the Phillies just finished a sweep of the defending World Series champion Texas Rangers. Philadelphia has won 29 of its last 35 games and is 37-14 on the season. It doesn't really matter what your opponent's records are if you're emasculating them every single day. Done. Like,
Yep.
That to me encapsulates everything that has been about this team since the beginning of this season.
Yeah, it's funny when you brought up the strength. I was actually going to bring up that exact same tweet because I feel like that's the point, right? I mean, again, they haven't been playing a lot of good teams, but the problem is that there's not that many good teams, right? I mean, you look. I think it's in the National League, right? It's us, it's the Dodgers, it's the Braves. I think, and this was maybe a day or two ago, so things could have changed, but I think it was the Cubs and Brewers, right? I think there was like 5 teams with a record above 500. So I don't know what you want them to do. Like, if no one else is good and no one else has a good record, like, what would you like teams who are above 500 to do about that? I mean, everyone's going to play these teams. But the biggest point is they're sweeping them, right? And other teams aren't. I mean, and we said this, before the season even started, we were looking at this part of the schedule and we said, they have to take care of business. They're taking care of business, and just like any other team in Major League Baseball would want. But it's the narrative where they have an easy schedule, so it invalidates what they're doing. And I get it, but like at the same time, maybe some of these other teams shouldn't worry about never putting any money into their franchise. Maybe these guys should actually try to put a real team on the field. And there's a couple of instances where I think it's just kind of backfired, right? The Padres, right? They put a lot of money into these teams, and the clubhouses just aren't clicking. I mean, there's a big part of that too. So it's like there's teams out there that I guess are trying when it comes to the money thing. They just don't have the I don't know if it's the front office or the scouting or whatever it is to kind of see, which guys are going to be good, which guys aren't. I mean, you look at the Padres, right? The year where it was Turner. It was Swanson, it was Bogarts, and who was the fourth guy for the shortstops? Correa, right? Yeah. So they go with Bogarts, who they immediately moved from shortstop, and so basically he played there for a year, and now he's not going to be a shortstop. So you're paying essentially your second baseman. I think eventually he's going to probably move to like first base or something like that. A $280 million contract, and the guy hasn't really produced. It's like it's all about getting the right guys, and I think our front office has done a really good job with that. But that's why we're at where we're at, right? And the Phillies are a good team, but going into the season, I think the predictions were the Braves were so good last year, they're going to replicate it. Who was I listening to? I was just listening to something or reading something the other day. And someone made a really good point. The Braves, like almost every player on that team last year, had a career year. So it's kind of like it is tough to replicate that. That's not taking anything away from them, but Matt Olson had an incredible year, right? Austin Riley has missed some time. Acuna has started off the season pretty slow. Albie's missed some time with an injury. They lose Strider. So like they're having some things not necessarily go their way, which I don't think they're used to. But I think because of this, people are like, oh, well, the Phillies aren't actually this good because, I think some of the sports books were putting them at like an 89.5 win total for the season. Maybe even lower than that. But
listen, if you got that ticket, hold on to that one.
Yeah,
you might they could cash that one early.
They could play under 500 and still win, right around 90 games. For the rest of the way here. I don't anticipate that happening. But I think that's what part of this is. Like, people are like, oh, well, the Phillies aren't actually as good as what their record indicates. And the only reason their record is so good is because of who they're playing. But then, look at the run differential too, right? It's not like they're squeaking by some of these teams. They have As of yesterday, I know I didn't look this morning, but as of yesterday, they were tied with the Yankees for the best run differential in baseball. And I think, it's not the end all be all, but by the end of a season, run differential always seems to kind of come into play. And the teams that are overperforming typically have a lower run differential. And you kind of see that come out at the end of the season. The Phillies are, just like Jeff Bassan said, right? They are not just beating these teams, they're destroying. And that's what they have to do.
Yeah, and so let's talk about JT Realmuto, because Trey Turner goes out. Rob Thompson slides him into the 2 spot. And his statistics in the 2 spot have been wildly productive. So since moving to the 2 hole when Turner went to the IL, 12 games. Now this was as of May 23rd.
Okay.
12 games, batting .337 with a .939 OPS. He's got 20 hits, 3 doubles, a home run, 5 RBIs, and 11 runs in 12 games. His production, to be able to slide your catcher into the 2 hole, because you still want that, you want to be able to go I understand the wanting to go left, right at the top of your lineup, but also be able to get the protection before Harper, keep Bohm in the cleanup spot after Harper with, and he's another guy we got to talk about in a minute. But JT Realmuto, man, he has been really, 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 really good to watch. And you look at how productive he is, just really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he was actually having a pretty good year, even without moving to the 2 hole. But since then, he's been absolutely tearing it up. And it's really good to kind of see that resurgence. It's not that he had an awful year last year, but it was a down year for him. And I think you could kind of chalk that up to a couple things, right? He's getting older. He plays way more innings than any other catcher in baseball. So it's like, okay, you're kind of maybe expecting not a drastic decline, but probably as time goes on, right? It's a position you get beat up with and everything, and he plays so much. But I mean, seeing this, I'm like, wow, okay, he does still have it. So you can see when he's healthy and he's seeing the ball well, yeah, he is still a really productive catcher. And again, just being able to even move your catcher up and down in the order and get that type of production is once again just a huge weapon and advantage that this team has.
And talk about wildly winning a trade.
Yeah.
And that was a trade we've talked about way back when.
Yep.
But even to me now, to look back at the trade that they made to get Gregory Soto, and now you're getting the bonus production from Cody Clemens.
Right.
They're going to be in a position where they're going to have to make a decision roster wise. When it does allow the flexibility for Turner to not have to rush back, because you're not getting the drop off in production in your lineup. What happens? What happens with the roster construction when Trey Turner is ready to come back? I know that the hamstring is always a tricky thing because it has a really high tendency to be re-injured. So you want to let him get as healthy as possible, because the sprinting is normally where that hamstring injury kind of you'll see it flare up. What do you do roster construction wise? Because you're going to have to make a move somewhere.
I mean, I think the only thing to do is option Clemens, just because he has the option still. I know he's been playing well. I know he's been productive, and it kind of stinks because I think on some teams Clemens could potentially be a major league player. But we kind of saw a similar trajectory with him last year. He kind of went on that hot streak in April and a little bit of May, and then just kind of fizzled out. So I don't want to take anything away from Clemens, but there's a reason why he didn't make the opening day roster. There's a reason why he hasn't been an everyday major league player. And again, it's not that he's bad. He's a great role player. He's great for this situation, right? But not every guy can be a superstar. And not taking anything away from Cody Clemens, but realistically, this production is probably unsustainable. I'm not saying he's going to be terrible, but as teams see him more, as he plays more games in the major leagues, he might fizzle out a little bit. And I mean, I saw some people saying what do you do when Turner comes back? And it's like, I mean, well, it's Trey Turner. Like he's going to come back and
Right.
and
Right. You're talking about a guy who's a top 10 player in baseball. Like he
right. And he
slots
was
back
having
in
a
the
productive
shortstop.
year. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And-
And even like Sosa, though, like Sosa, I mean, he doesn't see, the thing is like he doesn't have any options. Pache doesn't have any options. So Rojas, I guess you could technically send down. They're not doing that though. So it's going to be Clemens, I think.
Yeah.
But having him as that guy, hey, someone else goes down, you can bring him up. Like have it. You need a guy like that. That's I don't think sending him down is in any way saying he's not a good player. I think he's a serviceable player for the role he's in. But I think what we do in Philadelphia is we always get attached to like those bench guys. And they're great. I love them, right? Like, I mean, I love Sosa. I love.
Listen,
I love bench guys in the past.
You got Sal's pals. You got you got Chris Coast. You got you've got this is what we do. This is what we do. We fall in love with TJ McConnell. We fall in love with the 26th guy on the bench. We fall in love with the training camp wide receiver. Like this is just what we do. But I think, do I think that you probably make the most obvious move, right? And this is purely, a guy who's been really productive for you in the role that he's playing, but he's playing a role. And I think what people outside of that locker room might not see is that he's okay playing that role. And he seems to be content playing that role and knows that he played that role on this same type of team last year. When he came up and he was productive for short spurts of time. And he knows that if there's another opportunity, his role is to come up and be productive. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that he's the first guy that's going to be brought up based on his ability to be able to produce in those small spurts at this level. But I'm really. It's a really good problem to have, right? It seems like it's the same conversation with Spencer Turnbull, right? You would love to be able to just go to a 6-man rotation, let him get stretched out because at some point, I think stashing him in the bullpen does leave you a lot of flexibility because they can keep him stretched out if they want to, right? It also gave them last night when they put up all the runs that they do in the ninth. They can sit Matt Strom down and bring him in to pitch in ninth and save Matt Strom for today. Yep. So the way that it's allowed them to continue to be flexible, but to get guys rest has really just been a really, really impressive thing. The other impressive guy is Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm just, I feel like there were people, and the guy that comes to mind is Charlie Manuel. When 2-3 years ago, when Alec Bohm was really, really struggling, I remember Charlie Manuel saying, this kid's going to be a hitter. He's got the potential to be a 300 RBI, 100 plus RBI guy. He's just got to get time to grow. And I think what we failed to realize, because he came up at the time that he did as a former first round pick, and that because there wasn't instant production from day one, everybody kind of wrote him off. The defense was really bad. I remember, Ray Didinger calling he and Reese Hoskins the corner butchers because it was just error after error after error. To see how he's grown as a player is really going to put them in an interesting spot in the next couple of years when they really do have to make a decision on what to do at that position.
Yeah, they definitely do. But you can't argue. I mean, he's been great this year. Yeah. What's he at? He's around 45 RBIs already.
46 RBIs, 5 home runs, batting .317 with 63 hits.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like, obviously, I think from third base, you might want to see like a little bit more pop there. But I read a quote from him the other day and basically saying like, yeah, he could change something with his swing, but if he did that, he was going to strike out a lot more. And he doesn't want to be that type of player. So he's going to keep hitting. And, the doubles he's hitting, you're still getting kind of like that power out of the 4-hole there to drive in runs. He's just been insanely productive. And defensively, he's looked like a different player over the last year or two. So it's been really good. And I know you talked about with the future here, what they're going to do with him, because you do have Aiden Miller, who is having a really productive season in Clearwater right now. But so far they haven't moved him from shortstop yet, so he's still playing short down in Clearwater. But I mean, so I don't know. Like, now are they thinking, okay, well, in a few years, because Turner's not obviously the greatest defensive shortstop, do they maybe see some situation where they move Turner out of short? But the other thing is you have Aiden Miller, who's like kind of a big guy to be playing short. Like, it's not necessarily like something that I think that scouts are projecting, but as of now, they haven't given him a reason. He's playing a really good shortstop down there, so they haven't had a reason to move him. So maybe you do end up moving someone else, but at some point, then you're gonna have Stop, Bohm, Turner, Harper, and then you're gonna have to find a spot for Aiden Miller somewhere. So something's got to give. It's just a matter of what their plans are for and trying to project the future here.
Listen, it's like we've said, it's a really, really good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that they were able to take care of Texas at home, right there. Once they're going to finish up today in Colorado, and then they're going to go out to San Francisco for a series. What are you looking at from the time that they're going to spend out on the West Coast?
So I think you have to win today, right? You can't lose a series to the Rockies. The Giants are abysmal too. Like, their offense is so bad, but for some reason we do not play well out there, I feel like, the last couple of years.
Yep.
I didn't look at the pitching matchups yet. I know for the Giants, I think Logan Webb is going today, so we'll miss Logan Webb. They have a couple younger guys who are hitting the ball okay, but I mean, when you look at them on paper, like, the Phillies are by far a better team. It's always tough to sweep on the road, especially on the West Coast, even though they did it in San Diego too. I would love the sweep, but again,
especially a 4-game sweep or 3.
Yeah.
No, they're going to play 3 in San Fran.
3 in San Francisco. Yeah. So I'm saying you take 2 or 3 there. That would be great. Obviously you'd like the sweep, and I would take that. But I mean, at this point in the season, what you need to do is you just need to worry about winning series. Obviously sweeps are fun. It makes the record much better. It's a lot more exciting. But if you can get if you can just keep winning series, you're going to play over 500 baseball, and this team is already on pace to win well over 100 games. They keep doing that. There's no reason why they won't.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they haven't lost a series since the opening series against the Braves. Stringing win after win after win together. It's and then they'll come home. They'll come home from San Fran and play St. Louis.
Another series that they should win.
Right. Like it, and that to me is what's setting them apart. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And that's the stuff that I'm really looking forward to. Really curious to see, as we start to approach that all-star voting time, how this Phillies team is represented, because you really do have a good opportunity to be able to get a lot of your guys there. I know that MLB has the every team gets represented rule, but you could make a case for a good portion of this roster to be represented. And the reason I say that is because the fan vote is something that does factor into whether or not those guys go. And the Phillies' attendance has been incredible. And that's something I think we'd be remiss if we didn't kind of touch on before we get to some other stuff. But the thing that has blown me away with the stuff that I'm seeing on social media is the side-by-side pictures. And the one that caught me off guard, this may have been Haley Simon, I'm not sure, but she had whoever it was, she had a side-by-side, and it was the season after the World Series, right? So imagine the season coming, it's May of the season that you're coming off of the World Series appearance against the Astros, and side-by-side on the same exact day was a complete sellout. In the picture on the left, right, you've got the whole upper level pretty much open. The way that the fans have attached themselves to this team and the way that they're playing, really does make me feel good about having a good baseball team to ride you through the summer is always a blessing. Because, with the amount of time that you could spend watching bad baseball, and it really does afford you the opportunity to just kind of tune it out. This is, like you were talking about earlier, scheduling events around, when the Phillies game's on, to either have people over or say, I got to be home by this because I want to be on the couch to watch it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You're right. I mean, the attendance at games, I mean, I think every game this week that was at home was over 40,000. The Thursday day game was very well represented. Yeah, you just see it. And it's fun, like having that atmosphere back at the park. I was watching some videos and I think was it Monday's game? But there was some play, and just like the sound that the stadium was making, like how loud it was for a regular season May game, it just shows you, yeah, people are buying back in. No, I think there's a couple of reasons. Obviously, success always breeds that, right? People are going to start coming back, and it's like, hey, if I'm going to go to the game, I want to see them have a chance to win. I think also, it's this group of players, right? Everyone, I feel like everyone has like that favorite player. Like I know all the kids in my class all have a favorite, a go-to favorite player. And everyone kind of like has kind of that relatable aspect, I guess. Like this team doesn't seem like they're pretentious. You know what I mean? They almost seem like they're kind of relatable. You have Stubbs and Marsh and Bohm and Stott who just kind of act like typical like college kids, basically. So it's a lot of fun. I think they're a relatable team. Yeah, I saw this picture actually too. Okay, but yeah, you see the difference.
Yeah. Like like huge difference. And this is not like them coming off like 100-loss season. Like this is May. The picture on the left is May after they win. May after they go to the World Series. The following summer, the picture on the right is after they're coming off tragically dropping game 6 and 7 at home to go to the World Series. So you can really kind of see the way that this team has bought in, the way that the fans have bought into this team, and I think it's no stretch to see why a lot of these core guys have been around. A lot of these guys have been around second, third, fourth, fifth seasons. So the core group is staying together, and the more that those guys hang around, the more we start to identify with those guys.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the reason why no one knows anybody in the NBA draft, because of the transfer portal, and they're constantly switching teams, and you can't keep up with who's where. These guys are around. They're sticking around, and it's showing. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are two baseball statistics that I want to share with you on our way out. And these are just every time these things come on, I just have to pause and just be reminded of how great some of these players are, right? So Joe Morgan, this stat popped up, and I'm going to try to take the graphic off real quick. So Joe Morgan had 4 seasons with at least 50 extra base hits, 50 stolen bases, and 100 walks. The rest of the players in Major League Baseball history have a combined 0.
Wow. I did not see that one.
Like that's wild, right?
And
Joe Morgan, right?
Yeah.
Big red machine. Like he's done, people would probably identify more on the, commentary side now, that his playing days are much more far removed. But looking at these kind of statistics, I know there's a lot of statistics like this, which I'm going to get to in a second. I got one more in regards to Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn's got a lot of these level statistics. But to see that, like, you could have 50 extra base hits, 50 stolen bases, at 100 walks, really speaks to how much of an asset he was about getting on base and really setting the table for the guys that will come up in that lineup, like, the Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, like those guys. It's just, that stuff is just really, really cool to see.
Yeah. I like I like stats like that.
All right, here's the next one, and this is the Tony Gwynn.
Tony.
This is the Tony Gwynn one. You ready? John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, and Pedro Martinez struck out over a combined 12,000 hitters. They faced Tony Gwynn 330 times and struck him out 3 combined.
Tony Gwynn's strikeout stats are some of my favorite ones to look at. Like every one, I'm like, no, like that can't be real, right?
It really did. Like these two just kind of set me on pause. And I was like, it really does allow you to kind of marvel at how good these players are, right? And we're not talking about just 4 random guys. We're talking about 4 guys that are Hall of Fame pitchers. And they all combined for 3 strikeouts in 330 plate appearances.
Yeah, he was a hitter. I mean, and he did not like to strike out. So
no, not at all.
Yeah.
So that was just that. Those were kind of too cool to stats to kind of end on. Eric, on the way out, tell them where. What do you got coming up?
Got something coming up on some of the things. Now we hit like the third, that 30%, 33% mark of the season, the first third of the games played. Got something coming out about just some things that we've maybe noticed or picked up on. So that should be coming out, I think, tomorrow morning. And yeah, I mean, at this point, it's funny. I was actually talking to one of the guys that I write with at That Ball's Out here, and he was saying that it's tough to actually come like they're playing so well. There's like less to write about. Like how many times can you say Ranger Suarez is really good? Alec Bohm is having a really good season. Like you can only say it so many times, right? Without and trying to need a new angle. So it's funny. Like this is really the first time where there's times where I'm like, I got nothing. Like, because it's like really, things are just going well.
It almost forces you to be really creative in terms of the stories that you write. Somebody there was did you see the video of Marsh kind of walking through the little farm area? And who was the writer? Forgive me, I can't remember. Is it? Oh God, I'm drawing a blank.
Was it a beat writer or was it a
Coffee? Alex Coffee, maybe.
Oh, Alex Coffee, yeah.
So
and she asked him what he was. Yeah,
she put out a picture and she's like, if you guys want me to do a little bit more digging on the backstory of this, let me know. You really have to, essentially, because of how good and how productive they are, you really do have to be creative.
Yeah. I think she's maybe the best writer in Philly sports right now. Alex Coffey comes out some great pieces.
She's really, really good. And it's really well put. It's always well put together. It's always well thought out. And it's always it's never surface. There's always depth to the story. There's always layers. Which, for someone who's in the business of describing physical events with words, she does a phenomenal job. So
yeah, she's really good.
Shout out to her. We'll check in with everybody in a couple weeks, but on the way out, go Phils.
Yep, go Phils. Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day. Yes, happy Memorial Day, everybody.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings. Said.
Said.